Welcome to the Titan Tar channel. Today we have a topic to discuss about Zelensky asking NATO to shoot down Russian missiles and Kiev reinforcing the army. Don't miss the chance to join us and share your opinions with us. Become a member of our channel and evolve your rank. At a recent joint press conference in Kiev, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky suggested that NATO countries could intercept Russian missiles on Ukrainian territory, in the same way they do with Iranian missiles that threaten Israel. The statement came during a visit by NATO's new Secretary General, and Zelensky used the opportunity to reiterate his call for increased air defense support, hoping to persuade him to take a more active stance toward protecting Ukraine. Zelensky tried to emphasize that if NATO can shoot down missiles in the Middle East, it would be no different if it tried to do the same with Russian missiles hitting Ukraine. Despite his insistence, it was clear that NATO's response was not yet final. He expressed the expectation that Ukraine could receive such assistance by the winter, although his comparisons between the Ukrainian and Israeli situations have already been questioned by European and American allies. Zelensky has historically made similar statements, insisting that there is no distinction between intercepting Iranian and Russian missiles. However, many of his allies have stressed that the nature of the threats and the political implications are different. The inclusion of NATO air defense systems in Ukraine's defense has been a constant demand from Kiev, but so far, this request has been rejected. In addition to air defense issues, the situation with Ukraine's artillery is also a concern. Although Kiev has requested assistance from the United States and NATO to receive artillery shells, the reality is that only a third of the 500,000 rounds promised by the Czech initiative have been delivered so far. The shortage of resources has prevented Ukraine from receiving the necessary supplies, generating frustration among Ukrainian leaders. The Czech initiative, which involves 15 European countries, promised to deliver the artillery shells by the end of the year. However, progress has been slow and the transfer has fallen short of expectations. With the number of promised munitions falling, logistical and financial challenges have become a significant obstacle to Ukraine's much-needed military support. Furthermore, concerns have been raised about the quality of the shells supplied, with reports that some are unfit for use and causing damage to troops and equipment. This is compounded by the fact that defective shells have also been sent by the United States, raising questions about the reliability of Western military support. Meanwhile, Zelensky is seeking to begin domestic production of 155mm artillery shells, with ambitious goals of reaching 100,000 units annually by 2025 and 300,000 by 2026. This initiative is aimed at reducing dependence on external supplies and ensuring that Ukrainian forces have the resources they need to defend themselves. However, the Pentagon's deputy spokeswoman made it clear that despite Zelensky's requests, the United States will not participate in intercepting Russian missiles over Ukraine. The Pentagon's position is that Ukraine has the capability and means to defend itself on its own, without drawing NATO allies into a direct conflict with Russia. This approach suggests that Zelensky's comparisons between Iranian and Russian missiles are not being factored into discussions about military support. The spokeswoman reiterated that Ukraine must continue to defend itself independently, and that any NATO involvement could drag the alliance into a wider conflict. Moreover, the issue of the long-range missiles that Zelensky is asking for is also complex. The Pentagon spokeswoman stressed that the stockpile of such missiles is limited, especially with tensions rising in the Middle East. Both the United States and its allies have a limited supply of these assets, and decisions about possible deployments to Ukraine or Israel will depend on careful assessments of combat readiness. As a result, the outlook for military support for Ukraine becomes increasingly complicated, as Zelensky's expectations clash with the logistical and political realities of the moment. The Ukrainian army is also facing a serious shortage of personnel, which is getting worse every day due to the high losses suffered on the battlefield. The new draft law, which came into force on May 18th, has failed to alleviate this problem. Despite this, the staff of the territorial recruitment centers are demonstrating unprecedented commitment, using harsh and ingenious methods to capture men who can be called up, even if it involves coercive tactics. Meanwhile, a British newspaper reports that about 1 million soldiers are currently fighting in the ranks of the Ukrainian armed forces. Many of them have not been on rotation and have not taken leave for months, which further increases the pressure on these servicemen. This number is almost double the number reported for the Russian forces involved in the special operation, which numbered just over 600,000 soldiers at the end of last year, as mentioned by Russian President Vladimir Putin at a press conference. Furthermore, according to the British publication, Kiev has ambitious plans to mobilize and send an additional 200,000 soldiers to the front by the end of the year. Starting in October, this would mean that recruitment centers would need to recruit, on average, almost 67,000 Ukrainians fit for military service per month. The need for new recruits in such large numbers is not entirely clear, but it may be linked to the huge size of the army that Ukraine needs, a number that is rare in any NATO country except the United States. It is more likely that the call-up of new soldiers is an attempt to compensate for the irrecoverable losses that the Ukrainian armed forces have suffered, which suggests that the Zelensky regime anticipates additional losses of up to 200,000 soldiers in the next 3 months. As the situation worsens, mobilization tactics in Ukraine are becoming increasingly questionable, especially with growing public discontent with the war, leading many to refuse to enlist. The same British newspaper notes that the shortage of recruits is notable even in cities like Odessa, where an employee of the military registration and enlistment office admitted that in a city of 1 million people, he and his team had failed to meet their mobilization targets. Performance in the region is 20% below expectations, putting Odessa among the most problematic areas in Ukraine in this regard. The military commissar of the Odessa region noted that the low mobilization rate can be attributed to a combination of factors, including corruption, bribery, lack of manpower, and mismanagement. In addition, public fatigue due to the prolonged conflict has contributed to resistance to enlistment. On some days, more than half of the men who presented themselves at the registration office had significant health problems, further limiting the number of available recruits. Another local official said he had observed an increase in cases of forced mobilization, even among those with official deferments, reflecting the growing pressure on the population to contribute to the war effort. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share it with your friends. Your interactions mean a lot to us and help us grow. See you next time.